Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium, and today I'm going to be answering your political questions, which means that my spirit guides are going to be answering your political questions, right? So I'm doing sort of a light channel. I'm about 60% spirit guides, 40% Susan. That can change a little bit. But basically, this is real-time channeling, and I'm going to hopefully get their take on your questions. And we're going to start with Kelly Paul. Kelly Paul says, why did Judge Engoron allow Trump to speak during closing arguments in the New York fraud case? Apparently, this is not usual, not typical. If you decide that you have attorneys, then you decide that the attorneys speak for you. If you decide to speak for yourself, you don't typically have attorneys. So this was an unusual thing that happened, that Judge Engoron said, sure, Trump can talk in his closing arguments, but Judge Engoron said you have to behave yourself. You have to stick to the merits of this case. You can't go off on any tangents. Your next question was, did it have anything to do with the bomb threat at this judge's home? Or was the judge just trying to bend over backwards to not appear biased? No one gets this preferential treatment, which is true, Kelly. No one gets this preferential treatment. That is something I think we can all agree upon. So yes, the spirit guides are saying that Engoron wanted to prove without a doubt that he bent over backwards, that he did everything he could do to give this man, Trump, a fair trial, because we know it's going to be on repeal. We know that. We know that Trump, the minute this is settled or the minute the judge passes his sentence, that this is going to go appeal. So what Engoron is saying is that upon the appeal court getting it, they're going to be able to look at it and go, no, this was a clean, clear court case. There's no reason for us to hear this case. That is why he allowed Trump to do this. And I kind of feel like the spirit guides are saying it was kind of like sport in the sense that Engoron was like, how much of a fool, how much of a mockery, and also how much more can he incriminate himself? Every time this man opens his mouth, he incriminates himself. I'm going to give him one more chance to incriminate himself, because I feel like this is going to stand, that it's not going to go on appeal. It's not going to get drug out further into the presidential season, election season, and it's going to be done. And that's why Engoron did this. It had nothing to do with the bomb threat at Engoron's home. Everything to do with Engoron giving Trump that last bit of rope, if you will, if you understand that meaning. So yeah, Judge Engoron is just basically trying to make sure that this case sticks and it doesn't go to appeal. So let's move on to Charles. Charles says the outcome and tension between the U.S. coalition and the Houthis. What is the outcome of the tension between the U.S. coalition and the Houthis? Okay, so first of all, the guides want to say that this is heating up. This is actually heating up. It's not the actions that the United States and I think it's Britain took, which is, as far as I can tell, the whole coalition, did not do enough to curtail enough these people's attacks on ships in the shipping lane. So this was all about merchants. This was all about shipping. This was all about money, right? Money travels through those, be they products, goods, food, oil, gas, whatever it is. This is a heavy shipping area. And these Houthis, which are connected to Iran, have been attacking these ships and actually firing at United States ships that were in the area to protect those merchant ships. So the guides are saying this isn't over yet. They're saying they're saying that thing, it's not over till it's over, which means to me that this is an ongoing situation. They're showing that we did do some damage to some important, I'm going to call it infrastructure, but the guides would, weapons, infrastructure, military infrastructure, maybe is what they mean. We did do some damage. There's no doubt about that. And that damage is complete. In other words, it's not minor. It's not minor damage. We wiped out some of their military abilities, but the bigger question here is the United States and Britain and the coalition, whatever that might mean, are we being drawn? Are we being drawn out? I feel like we're being exposed, okay? I feel like when you put your arm out the window of the car, your arm is exposed to maybe a tree going by, right? If your arm is in the car, you're pretty good. But if you stick your arm outside the window, then anything that you get close to might damage your arm. So in this way, the guides are saying they're drawing us out to expose us. And expose us they have done, because we've already had some issues with the Navy SEALs and other things. So yeah, they've exposed us. And really, this is not about, okay, let me see if I can explain this. This is not about so much the shipping lanes. It's about stirring up controversy within the United States during a very important time period before the election. That's what this is about. So you can draw a connection from the Houthis to Iran. You can draw a connection from Iran to Russia. All the countries that pretty much want the United States to be in a panic or in some sort of turmoil is the word, turmoil. They want to create turmoil. So everybody has an opinion, right? So of course, the Republicans have an opinion about this. The Democrats have an opinion about this. Everybody has an opinion. And that's going to cause more turmoil within the United States, which is the reason they're doing this. It's not necessarily, there's no other reason, okay? I'm just going to tell you that. The guides are saying this is the reason. So by the United States, kind of I'm about to get really political here, but this is what the guides are saying. The guides are saying the United States is overreacting. Now, I know people are going to be yelling at me saying they fired at our ships. They've taken over merchant ships. Believe me, I'm on your side. I'm channeling. This is 1-800 Spirit Guides. Press 1 for complaints. If you got a complaint, go to the complaint department. Because the bottom line is this. In the United States, and I would also say in Britain, who's our partner here in this exercise, nobody wants war. The bottom line, the spirit guides have told you this many, many times. No one wants war. Humans do not want war. There's a few countries that would benefit from having a war. Iran certainly benefit Russia to get all eyes off of them onto somebody else. That helps them. And the countries that make money off of war. Also, the companies or the individuals that might make money off of war. Those people are all about wanting war. But the interesting thing here, that if you take a Venn diagram, and I'll put something on the screen, and you take two completely different groups, the Venn diagram is the overlapping commonality. Well, in this case, surprisingly, the overlapping commonality for no war, there are Republicans and Democrats in this same group, believe it or not. Now, of course, I know there's the hardcore MAGA Republicans that think that we should be blowing everybody up or killing people, or I don't know what they think. The average Republican does not want this. Also, they don't want money spent on this. I'm telling you right now, energetically, they don't want money spent on this. And I think a lot of people, be they Democrats or Republicans, don't want money spent on this. There's already a lot of hue and cry over what money we sent to Ukraine, right? And now here the Houthis are dragging us out, right? They're They're luring us into spending money. They're trying to lure us into some sort of altercation, if not a war, for sure an altercation. Because once we have skin in the game, once we've lost a soldier, a sailor, or somebody, we've got skin in the game. We're not going to back down. That's just who we are. So then one thing leads to another, and we're in a conflict. Now, the spirit guides don't want to call this a war. They want to call it a conflict. I don't see us going to war. And the reason why? Because the humans don't want war. The people who vote, we don't want war. We have no stomach for it. We don't want it. Now, this actually is pretty true for most of the world. Again, except for a few countries, and I'm not talking China here. I'm talking a few countries that are pretty small or insignificant. What can they do to create this war? What they're doing in the Red Sea. Draw us out, tempt us, bait us so that we react. We react enough that then there's a problem, and then we've got to man up. We've got to suit up. We've got to show up. We're the United States of America. You can't just do that to us. Now we got to prove to you who we are. This is a mistake. It's really and truly, according to the spirit guides, this is a mistake. Now, I think we're actually really lucky that we have Biden at the helm, because I think of all the presidents that they're showing me, he's the one who least wanted to go or wants to go to war. So he really understands what's at his son, he was in the military, right? He knows what it's like. I think that he's going to do a good job of keeping us kind of cooler heads prevailing. But I'm telling you, it's like the generals and the war machine is sort of pulling him, and he's trying to hold them back. Because what is the objective, right? What is the objective attainable? Can we really wipe out all the Houthis? No. Can we wipe out all the terrorists? No, we've never been able to do that. Can we get them to a point where they're not attacking ships in the Red Sea? Potentially, yes. But this is a new war. This is drones. This is a whole new thing that we don't really have that much experience with. So now we're really out there trying to manage this new type of conflict. Now, the last thing I'll say about this, because I really feel like this is what you're going to hear in the news, but maybe not even until next summer. I mean, it might come up this summer. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell with timing. But the bottom line is this. We need more, what did you call them? We need more coalition. We need more coalition. As far as I can tell, we're just looking at primarily the United States and Britain. These ships are owned by China. Where's China, right? Where are these other countries? What I see happening, and I think hopefully a smart Democrat is going to suggest this, is that we need a new coalition. So yes, we have NATO, but we need a maritime NATO, a maritime police force or military force that responds to these things. And I mean, everybody needs to have skin in the game, not just America, not just Britain or Canada or Australia or anybody. It needs to be China. It needs to be everybody. Everybody needs to have skin in the game. If you're profiting from those shipping lanes, then you need to give us money or troops or expertise or have some sort of skin in the game to protect those shipping lanes. What I think you're going to hear from Americans is we're tired of being the top cop. We're tired of being the military answer to everything. We want more coalition. And I do believe that because this is profit, we're protecting. Let's face it, this is profit that we're protecting. So why are we protecting profit with our soldiers, right? Why doesn't the profit makers protect their profit, right? So I think these are questions you're going to see. I really think this is the dialogue you're going to start to hear this summer, probably, and maybe we'll have a solution or at least be talking more about a solution next summer. So I don't see this being a war, but I definitely see it being a conflict. And I think that we've already been had. I think we've already fallen into the trap they wanted us to fall into. And now what we need to do is extricate ourselves from this situation any way we can. And right now, I don't see us doing that, but maybe by June, which is too long in my opinion. I think we read this wrong. I think we jumped in. See, they're telling me now, I do see opposing voices say we should have already jumped in. This has gone on too long. But I'm just telling you guys, Americans, and I think Brits too, are done. We're done with this. Let all the countries jump in. We're tired of carrying the weight of everything and suffering the circumstances of that. So this is the energy of the people that I'm reading here. We'll see what happens. Thank you for your question. Marilyn says, Marilyn also talked about the Red Sea shipping and recent U.S. and British efforts to keep the lanes open in the face of Arab attacks. At the same time, South Africa brings war crimes charges against Israel at The Hague. What would you like us to know about these events? Well, we talked about the shipping lanes. And as far as South Africa bringing war crimes against Israel to The Hague, South Africa has been aligning themselves a little bit more with Russia. And the African continent has been benefiting quite a bit from China and Russia. And so you can kind of put two and two together there as far as who their allegiance is to. But I do have to say that I don't think The Hague is going to rule. I don't think The Hague is going to rule either way. I don't even know they're going to take the case. I see nothing happening. However that happens, I see nothing happening to Israel. However, I do think there's going to be worldwide support, if you want to use that word, for Israel to rebuild what's been damaged in Palestine. Also, worldwide support for Palestinians to have a new government, and one that is a real government and not a Hamas government. I think there's worldwide support to diminish or hold Hamas accountable. But I also think that Israel needs to also be careful about what they're doing. They're really, I think, crossing a line into really killing a lot of civilians. If you're telling me I can't tell the difference between a civilian and a Hamas, then you're telling me we're back in Vietnam. And I can't tell a difference between this Vietnamese person and the Viet Cong. Now, that's a very tricky situation, isn't it? Because sometimes you can't tell the difference. But the onus is on the more powerful partner to try to figure out a way around that, okay? And I think that the world is looking, and I think the world is going to start to hold all of these people accountable. Hamas accountable to some extent, Israel accountable, and to some extent, or a big extent, those people that would be attacking trade in the Red Sea. So that's what I would say about that. New England Nomad says, is Haley going to surpass Trump and win the nomination? I think Trump is Trump going to win the nomination? The nomination. So I'm having a hard time with the guides separating the presidency from the nomination. Okay, we're talking specifically about the nomination, not the presidency. We're talking about who's okay. So they want to talk about how Trump can likely win Iowa, but he may not win the nomination. The nomination, this goes on through March, right? Maybe even later. And there's some twists and turns they're talking about with Trump. Right now, I think Trump is going to win it, but I'm telling you, there's twists and turns. So I wouldn't 100% say Trump is going to win it. I would say, and this is very telling, I would say the spirit guides are saying he has a 55% chance of winning. That's almost a dead heat. That's almost a dead heat. So I think something surprising is about to come out. I mean, you would think, what could surprise us at this point? I mean, seriously, what could surprise us at this point? But something surprising to the MAGAs, something that surprises Trump's support that turns them off to Trump. There's something going to come out. Now, they're not wild about Haley. They're not. This is what the guides have always told you. If Trump is not the nominee, they're not going to vote. They're just not going to vote. Trumpers are not going to vote. Regular Republicans may vote for Haley, but they're not. The Trumpers are not going to vote. They're just going to sit home. They're going to protest. They don't like Haley. They're not going to vote for anybody. They don't like anybody. Trump has done a good job of making sure that his people don't like anybody but him. There isn't a second place. There isn't a runner-up. End of story. So if it's not Trump, it's nobody. So I think that's pretty interesting. You also go on to say that you feel like polling is way off. I believe you. It is way off. What do the guides see for the percentage of youth turnout? And you feel like abortion and gun control are going to feed voter anger and re-elect Biden. I 100% agree with you. Don't forget how many people have had their student loans forgiven. Do not forget that. That is a big deal. A big, big, big deal. If you're a youth voter and your mom's student loans got forgiven, that's a big deal. So, and that gives them hope for the Democrats, right? It really does. It gives these young people hope that if the Democrats were in charge, they could do more. Okay. I 100% agree with you that abortion is the biggest deal. Abortion is absolutely the biggest vote turning out thing that can happen. And I do agree that gun control is also. So I wouldn't worry about, well, I don't want to say I wouldn't worry. Well, we shouldn't worry, but it's not a slam dunk with the youth, but I think by the time we get to November, it will be a slam dunk. Okay. So this is what the spirit guides have always showed me. So right now, maybe Biden's a little shaky in the poll numbers, but when it comes to when we get through this summer of all of these revelations and surprises, and I mean shocking things, I think it's a no-brainer. They will, not only will they vote, they'll get in line to vote, because then the next problem is that the states who control the voting, they're the ones that are going to close the polling stations on campuses or limit the hours or, do the things that they do. Do the things they do to keep people that might be likely to vote Democrat from voting. So that's the big next hurdle that would have to happen. And I see these kids totally committed to standing in line and totally committed to even leaving the campus. Some places they may literally have to leave their campus. So I see some last minute situations where maybe there's a charter bus rented. We will be very flexible, meaning Democrats and whoever is working on the campaigns will be very flexible in helping people get to the polls, because there's going to be last minute shenanigans, last minute pull the rug out from under people kind of things. But we're not going to let that stop us. We're going to be very flexible and we're going to get the job done. And your next question is, when will Lindsey Graham retire? Well, I did a reading on him, and the energy that I got was so strong. It was like a real movie that I was watching in my mind's eye. And in this vision that I saw, Lindsey cannot retire. He is an owned man. He's owned. They tell him when he can retire. They're showing me Chuck Grassley. Chuck Grassley wanted to retire. He's older than dirt. He publicly said, I want to spend time with my grandkids. I don't want to be working. I'm retiring. Guess what? He was back in that office, and allegedly he has a connection to Jan 6. Now, why do you think they put him back in the office? Because allegedly he has a connection to Jan 6. These people are not their own bosses. They're not making their own decisions. They're owned. Someone tells them when to retire, who to vote for, and who not to vote for, and what to say and what not to say. They're completely 100% owned. And how do you own somebody? Well, you get dirt on them. And, sure, maybe Lindsey Graham is gay. Maybe he's not. That's not what's got him owned. If these people are owned, it's criminal. They have criminal dirt on them because social ain't going to cut it. So what? You go against social norms. That's not going to cut it. Though every Republican has done something so far, as I can tell, that's against social norms. They don't even care anymore. They wear it like a badge. Criminal is a different story. You don't want to go to jail. Therefore, you're going to tap dance to the song that those people that have that evidence against you play. So that's why I don't think he's going to retire. And if he does retire, I don't think he's going to retire. I just don't see it. I could be wrong. If he retires, it's because the person that has the dirt has been arrested or deported or unalived or something. So his captor has been, he's been released from his captor, so to speak. Why? And the next question is, why has no one attempted to cross Trump over? How do you know he hasn't been attempted to be crossed over? I was watching an interview with his assistant, one of the two women that were his assistants, and she was asked about the ketchup thing. What is his problem with ketchup? Why does he throw ketchup? And she started to say, well, he only uses those little bottles of ketchup. And the person interviewing her said, what? And she said, yeah, he only uses the little bottles of ketchup because he's worried about being poisoned. And the interviewer was like, what? And she said, yes, because it has the pressure. You hear the little pop. Think about it. When you unscrew the plastic cap and you peel off that little plastic covering, that's not pressurized, but a bottle is pressurized. And when you do that, you hear the cap pop. So he only uses those little bottles of ketchup because he's worried about being poisoned. And the guides are telling me that it was a warning. So somebody got poisoned in his entourage, not obviously enough to be unalived, but enough for everybody to know they got poisoned, right? That's sort of like telling someone, I can reach out and touch you. You may think you're surrounded by people that are protecting you, but I can go right into your inner circle. For instance, not too long ago, Russia allegedly poisoned the head of intelligence of Ukraine, not him, not the head of intelligence of Ukraine, his wife. They poisoned his wife. That's a great way to say, we could have you if we wanted to. We'll just poison your wife. By the way, she's okay, but we'll poison your wife to show you how unsafe you are and how good we are. It's terrorizing. It scares you to death, right? So I do think that people have attempted to do that to Trump. And I also have read many times that I see Trump going to the DOJ and saying, you got to protect me. You got to protect me. And he's upset and he's like panting. And he says they're trying to kill me. So one of the, say, 3 scenarios are, 1, well, he crosses over because his body cannot handle this stress. 2, he goes not to jail, but to Gitmo because Jack Smith has put him in Gitmo. So I see this being a standalone facility that is like Gitmo. You know what I mean? Like completely military grade, no communication. Like when you go in, you can't even use a cell phone. It's blocked. It's literally that secure. 3, He goes into that sort of facility because he's afraid of being killed, and he's being held there for his own safety. 1, 2, 3. One of those things is going to happen. And soon, probably by the end of the summer, if not sooner. Okay, and the next question is, why do voter suppression bills have no effect on Republican voters? Fascinating question, right? Why do voter suppression bills have no effect on Republican voters? In other words, I'm a Republican voter, let's just say, and yeah, suppress my vote. I don't care. I'm all for it. Let me vote for that. Well, this is why the guides are saying this is true, because Republican voters see themselves as above everybody else. It's not going to affect them. Republican voter suppression bills suppress Democratic cities and anybody who's not white. So that basically, if you're a Republican, you're going to be able to vote. They don't see it affecting them. They see it as suppressing their enemy. So they vote for it. They truly do not see it affecting them. Now, some of this is magical thinking and some of this is true. Like, why would you vote to have Social Security reduced? Well, again, they just don't think it's going to happen to them. They think it's going to happen to everybody else. That's the magical thinking part of it. Okay, let me move on to Steve Myers says, will MAGA Mike Johnson get the boot from his chair for working with Chuck Schumer? MTG is speaking out against him. Feels like after the immunity judgment, will Jack Smith proceed with the indictments on congressmen? So there's two questions there. Will yes, I think that Mike Johnson is going to get the boot for a lot of reasons. For one thing, he thinks he can juggle all of this, meaning the Freedom Caucus, the regular Republicans, if there are any, the Democrats, his constituents, the American people, pressure from the American people, pressure from the press. He thinks he's got this. He really believes that he's made us something special that McCarthy wasn't, that he can juggle all this and somehow keep all the balls in the air and everybody happy. Not going to happen, because the Freedom Caucus want chaos. They don't want anything. I mean, think about it. The guys just said to me, how many times have the Democrats tried to pass border legislation and the Republicans vote against it? They don't want solutions. If they did, they would create a solution. They don't want the solution. They vote against the solution because you can't run on a solution. You want to run on fear. You want to run on chaos. So the Freedom Caucus is all about chaos. And if Mike Johnson wants to solve a problem, then he's not for chaos. And the guys just said to me that, Congress is now down to +2 Republicans. I mean, they have a majority by 2 because people keep retiring, dropping out, or they're on medical leave or whatever. All it's going to take is a snowstorm or something, some other situation where perhaps we find ourselves with more Democrats than Republicans, and maybe we get Jeffries in there. Now, what I think I see is another Republican becoming speaker, and then I see Jeffries coming in before November, before the November vote. I see Jeffries being the speaker. I'm not sure that that's the best thing for the Democrats, because I feel like he's going to be speaker over a very contentious Congress, one that is not going to be voting for each other. And I think if you have a Democratic speaker and the House is split, I think you have a stalemate. I don't see the Republicans voting on anything that's going to help the Democrats. I just don't see that. I don't see that. So I think it's not the best situation for us, to be honest with you. But before we get there, I feel like a woman is probably going to get to be speaker. And I think it's that it's a Republican woman, and I think it's that she's thin. I think she has dark hair, and I think she's under 40 or under 45. She's younger. Now that's going to be interesting. When she gets in, it's going to be interesting because she is even better at this than Mike Johnson. I mean, McCarthy was terrible at it. Mike Johnson is a little better at, managing. This woman's even better, but she's more, her energy suggests that she's more sinister. She's got more, she'll plunge it in deeper. She'll plunge the knife in deeper. Maybe Mike Johnson will wound you. This woman will make sure she buries, So she's not to be trusted, the guides are telling me. Which, I wouldn't trust any of them, but the guides are neutral. So they're just saying, she's not to be trusted. So that's what I see. And then your next question was, will Jack Smith proceed with more indictments on congressmen? I do think that. Now, this was the timeline the spirit guides gave me a year ago, was that this is the time right now. If we're going to stay on this timeline, please, for the love of God, let us stay on this timeline. And I talked about this in the last video or the video before last. Target letters went out in December. Target letters is when the feds say, we are investigating you, heads up. I don't know why they do that. It's actually not something they have to do, but it is something that they do. Oh, they just told me it's because while I was talking to you, I was actually asking them about why would they do this? Because wouldn't the people that are the target letter receivers, wouldn't they then take their cell phone and dump it in the water? Wouldn't they shred all the papers? Wouldn't they delete everything? Well, that's what the guides just told me was, yes, they will. And do you know that the majority of these federal cases are won on the cover-up, not on the original crime? Look at Trump, on the cover-up. It's the cover-up that gets people. It's not the original crime. So, yeah, sending the target letter actually gives them an opportunity to try to cover up the crime. And the spirit guides are saying, if the DOJ sends target letters, they're already bugged. They're already under surveillance. So when you go to the river to throw your phone in there, there's already somebody taking pictures of you doing it. So it's not like you're successful, and it actually adds more charges. So it's a nice thing that the DOJ does, isn't it? So yes, I do see target letters having gone out in December. I talked about this in a previous video. I think they said 3 people. They're saying it again. 3 people got target letters. Perhaps maybe Boebert. I don't want to say the 3 people because I don't want to say the 3 people, but then now we go into January through April. I'm feeling like 3 to 5 people are getting target letters, and these people are going to start snitching on each other, rolling on each other. They're going to start, and that's all, the DOJ is like, come on in, sit down. Can I get you a drink? Would you like some water? Whatever, because they want that. They want all these people to start snitching, because then we're going to get a lot more information than we even had before. And that's why they did it this way. That's why they sent target letters first, to make these people feel like those people are already snitching on them. Okay. And so the target letter people are going to go snitch on those people first. Meanwhile, those people who weren't snitching on anybody are now going to get a target letter because these people thought they were snitching on them. It's the triple, quadruple cross, right? This is what the guides have been saying for a long time. Now, this is the timeline I see. The only caveat that I can tell you that I think we should know about, and I don't even know why we should know about it, but the only thing that could change this is there is something coming. It feels like it's coming around March and April, and that's when the 2 eclipses are. We have a lunar eclipse in March, a solar eclipse in April, and believe me when I say nobody's going to be the same after that. If nothing happens to you, great, I'm happy, but something might happen to a coworker, or something might happen to some other thing. And eclipses can have nothing to do with you. You can be unaffected, you can be positively affected, or you can be negatively affected. But as you can imagine, if it's not affecting you, it's probably affecting somebody you know in a positive or a negative way. So there's something coming energetically that could shake this up. And when I go into the energy of the DOJ and the the prosecutors, the people working on these cases, and also by extension the FBI, the CIA, the ATF, the people who are bringing in the data for the prosecutors, the evidence, they seem to be cagey. They seem to be waiting to see how something's going to turn out. Like they planned this trap or this thing, whatever you want to call it, their case, they planned it, but now something that they couldn't account for is potentially going to affect the situation. Now, not in a bad way, but in a unexpected way. And these people don't like unexpected, right? These people run down every detail and they think of every potentiality, right? I mean, you think about it. If you're going to do something like this, you want to make sure that you know what might happen and you want to be prepared for that. You want to be prepared for everything. So now this new energy is coming in and it's throwing a wobble. It's throwing something off in their preparation. Now there's something they can't account for, which is making them slow down. It's making them slow down their timeline on these target letters and these investigations. So the energy suggests that they're like, pause. We need to pause. It's almost like when and I'm just going to describe it like this. I think this is a metaphor, but use your own intuition. It's almost like they had their sights on a target, on a person. Let's say it's Trump, whatever. They had their sights on this target. Perhaps it's 5 congresspeople or 5 elected officials or 5 suspects. Because now I'm saying could be senators, could be congressmen, it could be police chiefs. I don't even know. They have their eyes set on this target, this whatever this is. And they are planning to take the target out. Meanwhile, they see something coming from a different direction that's not them coming to take the target out. And I think it's international intrigue. That's what the guides always use when they talk about international operators coming in to jack with another country. So they call it international intrigue. I don't know maybe that has some meaning. I don't know. So think about it. If you've got these 5 people and you're like, yep, we've got them. We've got them dead to rights. We've got the evidence. We're sending out the target letters. We're going to wait. We can't hit go. We can't go. We got to wait because we're seeing this other energy come in and do something. Now, instead of arresting these people, we might have to protect them. We might have to protect them because they're United States citizens and they're innocent until proven guilty. Do you see what I'm saying? This is what I'm saying. They always want to talk about this situation being like one of those good spy novels where it's intrigue and suspense and you're flipping the pages or you're scrolling through the pages going, what's going to happen next? That's where we are. These people might end up having to go like in a witness protection program. And if they're public, how does that happen? And if we discovered another country is trying to off our own elected officials or even citizens, now what does that mean? What does that mean? What do we do? Do we handle it on the down low and give these people extra protection on the down low so that nobody knows? Do we make a big deal about it and announce it to the American people? Is that an act of war? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? When I say international intrigue, It's not easy. This is not, any of this stuff is not like just arresting a person who embezzled money from their company or their bank. This is someone who's working with a foreign country. Now we've got really big stakes here, big stakes. And we have to decide from a much different viewpoint how we're going to handle this. And the guides talked to you guys about this on the last video. They talked about this, international intrigue. We've been talking about this for months. This is not a small thing. These people have connections to other countries, and we need to figure out how to deal with that. So yes, I do think these indictments are coming, but I think that there's a potential that instead of coming in April, they may come in June or July. The plan, the original plan, according to the vision that I saw, was the trials would even be starting in June and July and August. And now if the target letters aren't even going out until then, that's going to mess up my time frame, because I was hoping these people would be out of office. Some of them having stepped down with, mud on their face or something like that. I mean, I know that's probably not even a reality these days with Republicans because they have no shame, but it is easier to fight this stuff not as a public person. So I think some of them will step down just because it's easier to fight. It's cheaper. It's cheaper when you don't have all the press at your house every day. You know what I mean? You can just do this more as a regular person. It's cheaper, it's easier, and frankly, it's better for the Republican brand. So I think that the Republican leadership is probably going to be saying the same thing. You need to step down and take your stuff with you, right? Like basically how they got rid of Santos and they got rid of Cawthorn. Like, you too messy. You messing up our stuff. You got to go. Woof. So I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to do part 2 and part 3 and part 28. I don't know. Things are really starting to heat up. Woods Witch says, was FBI Director Christopher Wray complicit with the January 6th insurrection in any way? And if so, will he be held accountable? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say for entertainment purposes only and allegedly, but yes, the answer is yes. The guides are, I'm over there trying to hedge. I'm trying to hedge. I'm like, what about if he was just a little bit complicit? What if he just sort of kind of overheard, and the guides are like, that's complicit, he's complicit. So I think, yes, your answer was in any way. And the guides just want to say unequivocally, yes. Now, will he be held accountable by a court of law? Will he be found guilty by a court of law? This is a long process. You are not going to want to know what I just saw. I saw 6 years. I saw six bleeping years. That's wrong. It's wrong. Justice moves slowly. That's all I can say. Yes, I think he's going to be held accountable, but it really could take years before he is held accountable. He may be working. He may be trying to go state's witness, but I'm not sure that they can trust him for state's witness. I don't think they want him. I don't think he's trustworthy. So that's pretty surprising. Again, I want to hedge. I want to say, I don't know that he was like a mastermind. I think that somebody could look at what he did and say, you should have known better. You should have known better. If you're saying you're ignorant, I'm saying that's a dereliction of your duty because you should have known better. So to me, that's a difference between overtly helping in any way Jan 6 to happen and just being sloppy and not knowing what's going on. They're both wrong, and I think he should be held accountable both ways. But one, I think, is Leavenworth. You know what I mean? They're telling me Leavenworth, and the other one might be, federal penitentiary, club fed, as they call it. You know what I mean? So that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to call this video at this time. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate all of your support and your likes and your shares. You know, you guys shared my last video like 400 times. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And thank you for your support. Take really, really good care of yourselves, guys. Whatever I said last year about the roller coaster, well, they added about 10 stories to this roller coaster. So if you like roller coasters, strap in, put your crash helmet on, your goggles on. If you don't like roller coasters, I would just go sit on the bench and wait for your friends to come back and see how they look when they come back, because we're about to go on a hell of a roller coaster. It's going to be okay in the end. In the end, it's going to be okay. It's going to be better than okay. But my God, getting there is going to make any roller coaster, any theme park ride you've ever heard about look like child's play. So take really good care of yourself, okay? There's no reason for us to be on every twist and, you know, dive and whatever. There's no reason for that. Put yourself first. Take really good care of yourselves so you can vote, okay? We'll see you soon. For entertainment purposes only.